Welcome to the Worst of the RIOT podcast, Monday, October 30th. That's Halloween Eve edition. And there is some Halloween talk today. If you stick around to the end of the podcast, you'll hear the debate, trick or treat versus trunk or treat, or why not both?
We also talk about some Halloween plans with Nikki, get an update with her about what she's doing that might be a little bit spooky.
And near the beginning of the podcast, you will experience a discussion about how people's habits when it comes to spending are changing. Perhaps Isaiah and I aspire to make these changes as well, even though we are struggling with it. Good show today.
And we'll catch up with y'all soon.
Can't wait. Catch you next time.
You won't hear a show like this anywhere else. And that's probably for the best. The Worst of the Riot. RadioU.
What is the worst thing that's ever happened from you forgetting a password?
Forgetting a password, I don't know that I've ever really forgotten one because mine are also similar.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my passwordization isn't great.
Yeah, I think likewise. Do you ever do that? Clearly you don't. Are you skeptical when like you make a new account and Google's like, we'll suggest a password for you, and it's a bunch of gobbledygook?
Oh, I would never use that.
I don't trust it.
A 0% chance I'll never use it.
Yeah, because I can't remember that, and so then I'm fully trusting Google only to remember my password. I don't like it. So, I don't know. The worst thing that I've been locked out of, or I guess the worst thing that's really happened is just you have to reset it.
Usually, yeah. Sometimes you can't get in. Sometimes it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's no reset.
I'm sure there's accounts I've lost to losing passwords, but they clearly weren't very important to me.
I've forgotten passwords before, and this story that we're about to talk about, I had a very similar situation to this. Where,
you did?
Yeah, I had the exact same thing happen to me. Where, like, you have, like, your Binance. I know exactly what this is. It's called Binance. And it's for, like, Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It's a Bitcoin wallet.
Uh-huh.
And Bitcoin isn't one of those things that's when you want to get into, like, Binance or any Bitcoin wallet.
Yeah.
It's, like, impossible to get into if you don't know your password. It's impossible. There's no resetting your password. You can't get it back pretty much. And so I had it to where I did this exact same thing, but I ended up getting into it.
You did figure it out.
Yes. After 3 years.
Wow, that means you must have been in on the Bitcoin thing for a
Yeah.
while. I have a guy here who has been locked out of his Bitcoin, where his Bitcoin is on a iron key USB drive, which I'm not too familiar with, but evidently it is a heavily encrypted, so very secure key. It's like the type of thing that would be used by the military and intelligence agencies for classified information. It's that level of security. And for this guy, he has $238 million worth of Bitcoin on this iron key USB drive. However, he doesn't know the password, and you get 10 tries, right, to figure it out. He's used 8 of them. So now he's down to the last 2, and he's got to be real careful.
At one point, it was up to 500 million. Now it's down to 238 million because he couldn't get in before when it was at its height. But don't you think that if you had this USB drive and you were setting it up,
Yeah.
you think you'd make sure you knew that password?
Well, here's why I would have to assume that he didn't have the password. It wasn't a priority at the time because he received this, and the reason it's worth so much is because he received this in 2011.
Long time ago.
Way before Bitcoin was anything anybody knew was worth anything. He got over 7,000 Bitcoins as payment for making an animated video. It's all just weird. And so at that time, that probably wasn't a whole heck of a lot of money. But now obviously it is, and it's been worth more over the years, but he hasn't been able to figure out the password. Apparently he's got people online working with him, and this is what makes sense, right? To try to like decrypt what the password would be.
Yeah.
With his last 2 attempts. And I don't know what happens like if you if you mess up the last 2 attempts, what does it do?
Locks forever. You never can get it back.
$230 million of Bitcoin, and nobody gets to see it.
Just gone into the wind.
Yeah. This must be tough, too, because it's not a simple password. It's all the gobbledygook that Google suggests, probably.
In my mind, I'm like, and you know that he's thinking about this 24/7, 7 days a week.
You should be.
Like,
It's
I would quit my
life-changing
job
money.
and figure this out.
I don't think that he has a bunch of other money coming in, like he has enough to live off of, but, $238 million would be life-changing.
Yeah, then you're just done. You're just good
Yeah.
if you get that. And so I would say probably 24 hours a day. He's probably trying to figure this out at this point.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't,
As if you're just going to magically remember something from 12 years ago.
you're just sitting down in a dark room, just trying to remember all your passwords.
Add a little riot to your Instagram feed. Follow @RadioU Official. The Riot. Radio U.
Useless knowledge, today's theme, candy corn. And America's favorite host has your question, Isaiah.
In the late 1800s, George Renagier of a certain candy company created this colorful confection. The most guessed answer right now, I'll knock it out for you because Philip just called in.
Yep.
And he guessed the same thing that Adam guessed and many others, which is Brock's,
Mm-hmm.
not Brock's.
They're well known now. I think they're the highest, keeping the candy corn tradition alive these days. But I wouldn't have guessed Brock's anyways. I am thinking of the company that makes all of the worst candy, except Peeps, and that is the New England Candy Company.
Very good guess, but incorrect.
Because they do the Necco wafers, and I think the little sweet hearts that you get at Valentine's, they do all the nasty stuff. So
All the bad stuff.
yeah, so I figured they'd also be responsible for candy corn.
This one is called the Wonderly Candy Company, which is now called Jelly Belly,
Interesting.
which is who owns candy corn. So if you knew
Yeah.
that Jelly Belly now owns candy corn, and you knew their old name back in the late 1800s, then you would have known.
Wow. Why would anybody know that?
Nobody would. Here's some rapid fire. Candy corn was very notable back in the day, partially due to the fact that it was the world's first what color candy?
Orange.
Tri-color candy,
Oh,
because it is orange,
that's a trick question.
white, and red.
Yeah.
Next on the list to be created by Wonderly were the candy pumpkins. You know those, right?
I do. Mm-hmm.
Kind of like a very close cousin to the candy corn. That is often sold in the same bag. What is that called? A mix of candy corn and candy pumpkins sold as the
Harvest mix. Oh.
It's actually called the autumn mix.
Ooh,
so you were really close.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
No.
All right, next question. While the classic white, orange, and yellow candy is the most well-known version of candy corn,
Mhm.
the company also makes other holiday versions. Do you know the holiday version for Valentine's Day? What's the name of it?
Oh, there's a name.
There's a name of it. You know it's called, this one's called candy corn.
Oh.
Then we've got on Valentine's Day,
Candy hearts.
what? It's called Cupid corn.
Oh,
Stay with me now.
yeah.
Stay with me now. What about for the 4th of July? What's that one called?
Oh,
Something corn.
yeah, I'm thinking of that.
4th of July.
Fireworks corn.
It's called Freedom corn.
Freedom corn.
How about coming up here in a little bit? Christmas. What do they come out with? It's red and green. What is that one called?
I know this one.
Okay.
Christmas corn. Oh, God.
Christmas. It's called reindeer corn.
Ah, stupid.
Cupid corn. Freedom corn. Reindeer corn.
Wow.
And right now, candy corn.
Yeah. Well, this was Surely useless. The candy corn's different flavors. You can get the one that's like brown instead of.
Yeah.
Is that a different flavor?
It's a different flavor. Yeah, I was looking at that last night.
What does it taste like?
I don't know what the other one tastes like. There's like a bunch of different. There's like a fruit punch one. There's a bunch of different flavored ones in that like mixed bag.
Got it. All right. Well, that was. You know what? That was slightly useful because now Christmas coming up. If you really like candy corn for some reason, now you'll know. You could also get reindeer corn.
Give me some reindeer corn.
Yeah.
Disinformation, mispronunciations, bad impressions. That's Hudson. This is The Riot on Radio U.
Now it's time for our Monday tradition, the box office breakdown. Looking at what made money and what maybe didn't over the weekend. It was actually a big weekend for movies. Five Nights at Freddy's was the number one movie at the box office. If you had to guess how much it made, just make up a number.
57.
57. Too low.
Too low?
It made $78 million.
That's pretty impressive.
In North America alone. Apparently, it made a lot of money overseas, too. I believe getting its worldwide total up over $100 million. Had a pretty good weekend. And they say that's on top of the fact that not only did it make a lot of money at the box office, but you have to remember, it also released on Peacock, so you could watch it at home, too. So either that says a lot about Five Nights at Freddy's, or it says not a lot good about Peacock. That people might not even been aware that they could watch it there. They went to the theaters instead. But nevertheless, I think they got to be happy about that. A lot of people went to see Five Nights at Freddy's. If you did, let us know. 8772 Radio U. Tell us how it was. Taylor Swift, The Eras Tour #2. 14 million. That's now at 150 million just in the North America alone. Then Killers of the Flower Moon, another 9 million. After Death came in fourth, 5 million. Keep in mind, After Death is a documentary about the afterlife. Anytime a documentary is in the top 5 at the box office, saying something, right?
Pretty impressive.
Yep. And then The Exorcist, still making a few $1 million, coming in at 5th. The Exorcist Believer. Isaiah, what have you watched recently?
Nothing over the weekend.
Nothing over the weekend?
I watched some football over the weekend.
Of course.
Other than that, I did not watch any shows, any movies. Unfortunately, didn't quite make the cut this weekend.
Jeff texted in. He said he stayed up late to watch Nate Bargatze on Saturday Night Live as well. Said it's the first time he's watched that in a long time and thought it was good. I've watched two things, both spooky, scary, or at least Halloween themed, and both old. One, Charlie Brown and the Great Pumpkin, of course. 2, The Blob. Have you ever heard of The Blob?
Never heard of The Blob.
The Blob is a movie from the 1950s, starring Steve McQueen.
1958.
It is a movie where a meteor type thing hits Earth. It has a blob inside it. The blob starts eating people and growing, but nobody believes the people that have seen the blob until it's too late and a bunch of people have been eaten. Good movie. Surprisingly, you think like old movies, you think they're slow and boring. The Blob actually pretty quick moving for an old movie. I enjoyed it. That's what I watched.
Makes for an interesting weekend.
Yeah, so that is a Halloween recommendation. You can watch it on Max if you want. 8772 Radio U. Let us know if you watched anything good over the weekend. It's your box office breakdown.
We're not sure who behaves worse, the Riot or their dogs.
I don't even know how to behave like a real human being.
The Riot, Radio U.
A new survey has come out. This is a survey of people from around the world. It looks like they did this in 142 countries. They asked people, how lonely do you feel in general? And for over half of people, they feel at least a little lonely. 51% felt at least a little lonely. 49%, though, if you want to look at the bright side, 49% of people not at all lonely.
That's good.
That's good. But 27% a little lonely and 24% very lonely. That is, you think that, first of all, I don't think we have anything to compare this to. You think people are getting more lonely?
There's no way that people feel more lonely now than we did 2 years ago in COVID. That was a very lonely
Sure.
time. Now at least you
Okay.
can leave your house, hang out with people. But I feel as if, let me ask you this, 24% feel very lonely.
Yeah.
Shouldn't that make that 24%, if you feel very lonely, you should feel a little less lonely? Because you know that
there's
everybody else is too?
Yeah. If you looked around, I guess if you looked around, you may be in an empty room. But if you looked at your Twitter or Instagram or TikTok or whatever, you look at your followers, you just scroll through, 1 out of 4 of them feels just as lonely as you do. But is that supposed to make me feel better?
It should, because if you just talk to somebody, they probably want a friend too.
So you just reach out to 4 people, say, "Hey, are you lonely?" And one of them will say yes.
I
and then
wouldn't
you
lead
guys can
off with
talk.
that.
You don't want to start that way?
I wouldn't say, "Hey, are you lonely? You feeling a little lonely?" I would say, "Hey, do you want to do something?
What do you
Do
think?
you want to hang out?"
Contribute? You think it's just because people aren't getting out and doing stuff as much, or what is it that is contributing to so many people? And this is, across the globe. This isn't just the United States. This is 142 countries. This is everybody. What is it that's making everybody so lonely nowadays?
I think it's just a mix. It could be like social media, seeing
Yeah.
everybody else doing really fun things, and which isn't always. It's never actually how it
Yeah.
works. But when you see everybody else on Instagram or Twitter or TikTok, and they're doing all these super fun things, it can make, if you're sitting in your bedroom alone on a Friday or Saturday night not doing anything, it can make it feel like you're doing even less, even though the majority of people are doing the exact same thing you are.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of pressure to get out to, when you're scrolling through your Instagram, to be out doing something and having fun and with your friends and whatever. And yeah, that's not necessarily, it's definitely, when you're seeing it on Instagram, it's not realistic to have that be your entire life. I think that's in the back of everybody's heads, but I don't know. I think more than that, yeah, it's not just not being out doing stuff. It's not feeling like you have a lot of people to talk to. So I think there are some steps you can take. Obviously, one step that a lot of people like to take now is therapy, although that costs money and isn't always very practical either. But that's one option. And just try to form. And this is so vague advice, but this is what I feel. And I don't exactly, for me, because I don't know how to go about this, but try to form a little more deeper connections with people, the people you do talk to. Start opening up a little bit more. Start trying to trust a few people. Maybe that'll help.
Yeah, put yourself out there. I mean, like, you're probably turning down more plans than you even realize.
Yeah.
And so if you're feeling like you're alone, you probably turn down plans that day. It's better if you just put yourself out there. 24% of men feeling very lonely. 24% of women feeling very lonely. It's probably best if we all just do something about it. Hang out.
Just start hanging out, start talking, saying a little more, and saying no a little less.
The only thing Isaiah loves more than the riot is himself.
Someone who probably still lives with his mother and hates himself.
You're listening to The Riot on RadioU.
We got a good question here. This one really hits home for me. It's, what's something that you memorized when you were younger and have no use for anymore? It's just filling up space in your brain. It's not helping you in any way. And to me, this feels I memorized a lot of things when I was a child that don't help me anymore, particularly from just watching all kinds of ESPN and soaking all of that information up at that time. And now, how does that help me? You know what I'm saying?
It doesn't at all.
How does it help me knowing defunct lacrosse teams? It doesn't help. It's not going to. I always think about the Columbus Land Sharks used to play indoor lacrosse. What is that doing for me now? Nothing. 8772 Radio U. This could be stuff that doesn't even, on its face, that was clearly, even at that time, unnecessary information. But I think you're taught a lot of things in school, too.
How about Roy G. Biv?
That's another one that jumped to mind.
People know what that is, huh?
Yeah. Roy G. Biv. That's how you memorize what the colors of the rainbow are in order. Is that really information that's really necessary at this point?
PEMDAS. A lot of people know that one too.
I've heard that. What is that?
That's like how you work through an equation. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, divisions, addition, subtractions.
I can see how in some kind of line of work that could be helpful. What about...
Unless you have a calculator. If you're doing your work on paper, which for whatever reason we all did as children.
Yeah, right. What about this one? This is another like I don't know. What do you call it? The things. See, this would be helpful information to know what you call the things that are like abbreviations or whatever that you use to memorize things. Shortcuts. If you ever need to memorize, this is one for the planets. My very easy method just sums up new planets. 9 planets, I mean. Read that wrong. You ever heard that one?
I never heard that one. I don't have the planets memorized. Nicole says the periodic table. That's a good one.
Wait, you have that memorized?
I'm sure a lot of people that did like sciencey stuff in college.
We had that posted in our school room at home, the periodic table. I don't remember very much of it at all.
Amanda says the preamble of the Constitution. I know that one too. I know the song, "We the People, in order to form a more perfect union."
That sounds like that could still be helpful now.
The preamble of the Constitution.
Yeah, like it's...
When am I going to whip that out? And people are going to be like, whoa.
Kind of like a little... No, just like a little... When you think about the United States and you think about like who you're going to vote for or something, you can think, well, the preamble, like this is what we're shooting for here. I don't know.
No,
useless. It could be
useless.
A helpful mission statement is how I would put it. Got a lot of texts coming in. I think we should let people text a few more and see what they're saying coming up next. 8772 RadioU. Something useless you memorized when you were younger that you still remember now. We'll find out a few more useless. I mean, this is useless knowledge is what it is.
Add a little riot to your Instagram feed. Follow @RadioU Official. The Riot. RadioU.
The question right now is, what's something useless you remembered when you were a child, like something you had to memorize that is still stuck in your head now, even though it doesn't help you in any way? Did you ever learn this? Isaiah Sean says, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species.
I don't know that one.
That's how like the animal family tree. Like
the animal family tree.
Yeah, like it starts at kingdom, and then you split it up into phylum, and then you split it up into class, and then order. He says the teacher didn't even put that on the test. So that wasn't even helpful at that time. Forget about now as a grown-up. I also see somebody who says 80 digits of pi. But even in school, you never went past 3.14.
Yeah.
In what scenario do you need to know more than those numbers? Do you know the next digit of pi after 4?
159.
Are you sure about that?
I'm 100% positive.
Why do you know that?
Because everybody knows that. 3.14159.
That sounds right to me. Regina says, this is when she was a child, she was really into Shirley Temple. So she memorized the song Good Ship Lollipop. You know that one?
Yeah.
Some of it, not the way Regina does.
Yep.
But she said she had a moment come up recently where she had to sing it. That for me is country music, except I didn't do it intentionally. But like the Shania Twain and Brooks and Dunn songs that my mom had on all the time. Now you put one of those on, I still know all the words, even though I didn't even choose to memorize that. I just heard it so much. Emily says, never eat sour watermelon to memorize the order northeast, southwest. Why do you need to memorize that order? What is that an order for?
Well, that's just so you know all 4 of them.
Yeah, because Emily, I need more explanation on this one.
We were talking about the preamble. Jim says, useless. The preamble to the Constitution. Why was this country founded? What is the purpose of this country?
Exactly.
Well, why do I have to have it memorized?
If you want to be a real patriot, a good citizen.
I'm not saying the preamble of the Constitution is useless, Jim. I'm just saying that I don't need to have it memorized. Do you have it memorized? I assume you must with a text like that.
Yeah, that's right. And
I
it
assume everybody walking around just has that memorized.
It informs his every decision.
Are you
What
even
about-
a U.S. citizen if you don't have that memorized?
What about this then? Is this useless along those lines? Is the Pledge of Allegiance useless?
Well, you have to be able to do that in school,
Yeah.
right? You would look really silly if you didn't have it memorized in school.
Well, you can
Now on a
just move
day-to-day
your mouth
basis.
a little bit. And
Well, yeah, but when you were a child,
you didn't want to get caught faking that.
if
But
you were the only one that didn't know it, you would look ridiculous.
that's what this whole thing is, right? It's things that you might have needed to use when you were a child. Now you definitely don't. When would we ever say the Pledge of Allegiance?
But wouldn't it feel like if you didn't know the Pledge of Allegiance now as an adult, if it ever did come up, let's say it came up one day, you would look really silly that one day.
Yeah.
Whereas if somebody said, do you know the preamble, most people don't, so you wouldn't look silly. If you didn't know the Pledge of Allegiance, people would be like, what were you doing as a kid?
Yeah.
Like, what happened to you?
Trying to think of more because my mind is
There's a lot of
filled.
ones when like reading music, if you were like in choir, there were ones, so like you knew like all the letters. I think one of them was
all
home.
the keys or
One of them was home, the notes
the notes
for like actually reading music. Was it
Yeah.
home? Was that it? No, it wasn't home. I don't even remember what it is now. I had
Yeah.
it memorized at one point to read music.
I wish. I'll tell you, I wish I knew how to read music now. I never learned. I never learned when I was in school and in like choirs.
It
and
was
stuff.
like elephants go bouncing down freeways. How you like me
There you
now?
go.
That's one of them. That's one of them.
and I can teach that. I could use that now if you taught me it.
You could if you wanted to play music.
I do. I would love to. I don't know. You know, the funny thing for working on a station and that plays music, and I'm very much obsessed with music, but I don't know the technical side of it at all.
The other side was face. The other one was face.
As in,
FACE were the other notes. They were in between the spaces
uh-huh.
where elephants go bouncing down freeways. That was on the lines. That's how little I know about music, but I remember that.
You know more than me. 8772 Radio U. If you've got any useless knowledge you learned when you were a kid that doesn't help you at all now, but it's still stuck in your head.
Disinformation, mispronunciations, bad impressions. That's Hudson. This is The Riot on Radio U.
Did you know this? That some people can get so upset by seeing or hearing poor grammar that they actually get physically distressed, and it basically it triggers the fight or flight response in their bodies. You think of anybody like that?
That really hates bad grammar that much?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not usually around a lot of bad grammar.
Yeah, so you're not like that. I am not like that. But I'll tell you who is. I can think of one example. Is Lex, the producer from Nights here at Radio U. She definitely the type of person that gets very upset if we were to say something wrongly. My mom is kind of like that too, where for some people, right, they actually, apparently, this is according to some new research from the University of Birmingham, they actually get so upset that it's like they physically get stressed out. That's pretty extreme when you see bad grammar, see or hear bad grammar. For other people, I feel like this is my mom, is that it annoys them in a sense that they want to correct it. You know what I mean? Which I think is different. It's definitely different.
See, I have no issue. I'm okay with you just rolling.
Yeah. Oh, hey, listen, if you were like Lex and needed to correct my grammar or got upset by my grammar every time it was wrong,
You would do it more.
It probably, but also
purpose.
it would make it very difficult for us to do a show because I don't think that my grammar, although I feel like I remember a lot of the rules, I don't think my grammar is really on point at this time, you know?
I would rather sometimes I just would rather make up words if I don't think it's going to be
Yeah,
right.
just say what sounds good.
Yeah.
Say what sounds good.
Say what fits there. You know what I mean? I think that's the best way to do it. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? If you don't know what I mean, then ask me.
And if people, like the top one that is cited is like the top example of bad grammar I can think is when people ask, how are you doing? You say doing good. You're supposed to be doing well.
Doing well, yeah.
But it doesn't sound right to say that. So
What about
What's-
via text? How do you feel about that? Your,
mm,
then, things like that.
I like to get that right. When it's written down, when it's, on record. And then it makes it just more clear. When you're writing it, that makes it more clear.
See, I think that's a lot harder to get right.
It is harder. Because, you're adding in extra rules like
effect. Which one am I supposed to use?
Yeah, commas and.
I don't mind. Like, if I'm texting you, you know what I mean.
But that's why I think it's important to get it right, to make sure that everything is clear.
I try to get it right, but I know I'm not getting it right.
Some people reading, if they don't know grammar, it makes it possibly less clear to them. So, I don't know. But I say all this. This is new research from the University of Birmingham that says people can literally get physically stressed by seeing bad grammar. But I was going to say, what is something for you? It may not be grammar, but do you have something that physically, where you get irrationally possibly upset when this kind of conversation is going on?
Good question.
You hear somebody being wrong about something in particular, what might it be? You want to think about it for a second?
We can think about it and come back.
And see if anybody else has things that maybe grammar, maybe not. Things that when you hear somebody that's wrong about it, it actually makes you.
We're not sure who behaves worse, the Riot or their dogs.
I don't even know how to behave like a real human being.
The Riot, RadioU.
We're talking about how a new study out of University of Birmingham says that bad grammar, witnessing, experiencing bad grammar can cause some people to experience physical stress. They get so upset by the bad grammar that they're witnessing that it actually physically makes them upset. Dee texted in. She can attest to that. She says her mom was an English teacher and using bad grammar would cause her eye to twitch. Her body physically responded when somebody said something wrongly. Her eye would twitch. You know what? I also have Grace here who texted in and said, I'm doing well. Doesn't sound that odd. She says she's a recovering grammar Nazi. I prefer the term grammar head, if you're asking me. But she also says she's trying to recover. She says her husband's family all say I seen something instead of I saw something. Which do you prefer?
I prefer I saw.
That is the technically correct way.
I don't like I seen so much.
But see, here's what I want to get down to is that for Dee and for Dee's mom, I guess, and Grace, you still know what the person's saying. So if they're saying I seen versus I saw, it doesn't change the message. You're still able to process what they're saying, right? So why does the grammar matter so much?
Just makes your body
Recoil.
tremble.
Yeah.
Yeah. When they say it wrong.
Carl texted in. I wonder if Grace will have some thoughts on this. Carl texted in. The example I used for bad grammar was you're not supposed to say doing good, right?
Doing good.
Yeah, I'm doing good. But Carl says doing well is a comment on your state of being. Doing good is a comment on your quality of action. So both are grammatically correct depending on intent. I feel like Carl's been said doing good and been questioned and had to come up with a defense.
It's a good defense.
Yeah. I don't want to have to go into a whole explanation. I just want to say I'm doing good because that just sounds normal. What's something that makes you, when people are wrong about it, it makes you physically upset?
See, the only things for me that when people are speaking, and it doesn't, like, the whole grammar thing doesn't bother me at all.
No,
You can talk however you want. It does not stress me out. Nothing can stress me out less.
There's one grammar thing that bothers me slightly, and that's ending a sentence with a preposition. You're not supposed to do that, right?
I don't even see it now. Listen to this. I don't even know what a preposition is.
Yeah.
I don't even know what it is.
That'd be like, look at my car over there.
Oh, yeah. So that upsets you. You must hate me.
I don't like hearing it. Yeah.
See, for me, I don't even realize. Like, if it's something that's obvious, then that's fine. Like, I wouldn't say anything. I'm not a corrector. I'm not a big corrector. I think if you're a corrector, that can be a little bit annoying.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough.
I'll say, my mom used to correct me all the time. Her big one was, I would always say, me and Hudson, instead of Hudson and I. And I would say,
oh, yeah, my mom would always do that.
She said,
would always correct.
Who is it? They come first. And I would say, who's there? Do you know who's there? It was Hudson and I, me and Hudson, doesn't matter. You know it was both of us.
Exactly. The message is clear. My mom, here's how my mom taught me that, because it always would upset her too. She says, if you removed yourself Or no, if you remove the other person, what would you say?
I
So
would
if you
say
said
I was there.
You wouldn't say me was there. That's the trick she taught me, but it's really not very helpful trick because either way we know who was there.
Grace says there is not a preposition, so here we are.
But you're still not supposed to, I don't know what the term is then. Over there is not how you end a sentence. You can't end a sentence with over there. But she also had a good comeback for Carl because she says you have to finish the sentence. I'm doing good is not a, or good is not a sentence.
I hate this.
I'm doing good
hate
things,
this.
says
So everybody knows.
Grace.
So this is more at my level. Regina says, my mother-in-law says things that annoy me. Like instead of saying jalapeno, she says jalapeno. That's more up my alley.
That bothers you
I think it's just funnier.
when people say words wrong. Does it bother you when I say yogurt because that's how they say it in British?
I know what you mean.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and does it bother you when I say wash?
You say wash?
No, I would never say that.
I've never heard you.
I would say that.
but during useless knowledge, you often say the highest grossing movies. when
That
you name
bothers
them.
you?
Not at this point now. It's just funny. I think the one thing that upsets me, and here's why it upsets me, is when people are like talking about politics stuff, and like, at least to me, they're wrong because the reason that upsets me the most is because I will never correct them. And so having to know that the other person is wrong and having to hold it in, that's what hurts.
That's what hurts the most.
That's what'll cause a physical response. That's what'll get your eye twitching. Is when you know they're wrong, but you also know enough that it's not worth delving into.
I just love it when people think they're right. That's my favorite, when they're obviously wrong.
Like when I said preposition over there, and apparently I was wrong.
I thought that was funny. I didn't know you were wrong, though. If I had known you were wrong, that would have been really funny.
The only thing Isaiah loves more than the riot is himself.
Someone who probably still lives with his mother and hates himself.
You're listening to The Riot on Radio U.
There's a lot of talk about, obviously, trick or treat for most places. It's going to be tomorrow. But there's also something, Isaiah, did you experience this ever as a child? Trunk or treat?
I never had trunk or treat. I always went from house to house.
Yeah.
I never got to do the whole parking lot thing.
That's kind of surprising to me because, I mean, you grew up in a kind of rural area, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
But did you live in a neighborhood, though, even though it was out more in the country?
I lived in the country. We would drive into town and park.
Oh.
And then we'd go house to house in the town.
Wow. Yeah, see, I would think, and this is why I did experience trunk or treat as a kid, is because living out in the country where you have to drive somewhere anyways, and even then, like, what are you going to drive into a town you don't live in, I guess? But we did trunk or treats a few times because then everybody real in close proximity, you don't have to walk so far between houses. It's just kind of more candy per step if you do trunk or treat.
Does it feel the same?
No.
Trunk or treat?
No, because it's over so quickly.
That's what I was going to say, because everybody parks their car, you just go bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, it's like walking up to every house, you're always kind of nervous.
Yeah. I mean, trick or treat usually, like, if you want to go the full, you can go hours trick or treat.
Yeah. Long time.
It's a whole escapade. But trunk or treat is like, you could be done in 15 minutes, really. And have just almost as much candy, but be done in 15 minutes. I think trunk or treat might be more fun if you're handing out candy. Because
it's quicker?
It is quicker. There's less of a like, all right, let me go back to the couch. Oh, nope, there's another kid. Oh, let me go back to another kid. It's just it's all quick and easy. And at trunk or treat, you know what people do? They like decorate up their trunks, do different themes and stuff like that. So that can be kind of fun if you're into that sort of thing.
What do you think about this, though? So if you're trunk or treating, right now, Halloween, what always happens every year, the weather's always terrible. It's rainy usually.
Yeah.
It's wet. It's starting to get cold outside.
Uh-huh.
So if you're doing trunk or treat, I don't know why you wouldn't just do it inside.
Well, that wouldn't feel right, would it?
But I mean, I feel like it makes more sense. If you're doing trunk or treat and you're just going trunk to trunk,
Yeah.
you might as well just go booth to booth in an auxiliary gym.
Yeah, I guess you could do that instead. I'm
I
sure
mean,
some
that
people
would
do. I'm
be-
sure some people do.
You would. I mean, if it was raining outside, maybe when I was a kid, maybe I wouldn't care about the rain. I
Yeah.
don't know. I feel like it would still be. It's always
Yeah,
wet.
you get soggy.
It's always wet on Halloween, man. It's never a good weather. And so I feel like for tomorrow night or whenever your Halloween is, wherever
Yeah.
your trick or treating is, I feel like you're either going house to house or I'd rather be inside.
Well, the fun thing about trunk or treat too, one of the positives of engaging in it is oftentimes, in fact, I would say most of the time, trunk or treats are going to take place on a different night than actual trick or treat night.
Oh, so you could double
so,
down,
yeah,
maybe.
double down. Yeah, and
I love a good double down.
You get a nice little list of the trunk or treats in town, and all of a sudden, like if you're a kid that really is committed to candy, you could really end up with a big haul.
Did you trick or treat with your family or with your friends?
Family.
Family, yeah. Me too, mainly. I think I remember one year where I went with just my friends in middle school. But I think other than that, I went with my family every year.
If you had to do it all over again, you wish you could hit some trunk or treats?
No.
No.
I think maybe like a one time. I think there was maybe a trunk or treat that was like on the path of all of the trick or
now
treat.
that'd be a nice bonus.
So like we went into like a church parking lot and there was like, oh, there's a trunk or treat set up. And I was like, oh, we hit the mother load.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Candy and pamphlets.
We've been going house to house. All of a sudden, now we're going trunk to trunk, and we're just getting a little bit of everything.
Yeah, that's hitting the mother load right there.
Find more Riot content online. Riot.radiou.com.